right. All right. So it's our weekly all-team tactical meeting, and we're going to use this time to sync up on what's going on around BCard, eliminate blockers, and prioritize work for the next week. Just FYI, this call is recorded, and we often take things that people say and share them on social media. So if you don't want that to happen, just let me know. What we do, in case you don't know, BCard is all about helping purpose-driven communities use Web3 tooling to generate revenue and engagement. And on the lag metric side, so this is what we're trying to achieve right now. We have 833 transaction volume last week, and that's plus 500 from the week previous. We also dispersed around $425 US dollars to communities last week, rather like in real life event communities. So that's something to note as well. I'm wondering if we should change our lag metrics from transaction volume to the amount that we have actually donated to communities. It's going to be very small. For instance, like that 833, like if you do that 833 times 0.01%, it's going to be like 8 cents, right? So it's like not a lot, right? On that front, it should get higher as we go, but yeah, maybe something to note, or maybe I should note the amount that we have every month from our Black Flag Endowment Fund. Either way, it's something to note that we are doing more than just the transaction volume, although the transaction volume is something we want to optimize as well. Any thoughts on that? No, nothing?
Yeah. So you're asking about metrics. Should we be measuring something else, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then I'm wondering, we have 10 communities deployed, and granted, we don't have a lot of transacting users right now. But as those numbers go up, what about tracking activity by community? Because then I could foresee down the road where maybe you could introduce, maybe not friendly competition might be a way to phrase it, where you have contests and stuff, or I don't know. It just seems like that could be a metric that would be useful
Yep.
to see
So
how communities are doing against each other.
we do have like let's say the concept of a plan to get that in the app itself or potentially on social media. Right now, what we're doing is we're building the data pipeline to actually have that information in like a automated way, so we don't have to kind of do it every week. And you
Right.
can see it on the dashboard right now. So
Okay.
there is some stuff happening here. The only thing I think is that in terms of priority, it's good for us to get communities competing against each other, and we also didn't have I think when we first discussed it, we weren't quite ready for it. I think just because our funnel was a little bit not that sticky, and I still think we're kind of in there. I do think that it is good for us to have it, but this is a different question than our lead metrics and lag metrics. Our lag metrics, usually we try to get it down to a single number of what are we trying to achieve, and then our lead
Transaction
metrics.
volume.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, really, that when we had one product, that was the case. That's transaction volume, because that was the only way that we could actually generate revenue for our communities is through transaction volume. But now that we have potentially multiple ways to do that, that might not be a good metric. Like the metric we might want to be tracking is how much revenue we're actually generating for communities, right? Because that's our true goal. But this was kind of like to do that, the only way we can do that is to get transaction volume. And I should mention as well that the lag metrics, specifically like this lag metric at the top, the idea is that we can't necessarily directly impact that. What we can do is impact our lead metrics. So the example I like to give is, hey, if you want to lose weight, you can't just lose weight directly. The things that you can do to lose weight are eat less and exercise. So your lag metric might be how much you weigh, but your lead metric would be number of hours that you exercised and number of calories that you ate. Does that make sense? Like these
Sure.
lead metrics should affect the lag metrics. And so the lag metric transaction volume was the only way for us to do this in the past, but we may want to get more on the whole, how can we increase the amount that we are getting to communities?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out what's a metric what's something you could measure that would track top of mindness, for lack of a better phrase. It's almost like it's like the in-app voting, right? You want reasons for people to think about BCard, come to the app. It's like, oh yeah, I have money there. Oh yeah, I should be using this. Oh yeah, this is a cool app. Oh yeah, and want to go there and make, like by the way, I know we're going to talk about it later, but the in-app voting screen, but stuff like that. How do those things, and what kind of a metric is that, right?
Yeah.
Am I making any sense?
You are, and it's funny too, because like in a different way, we actually don't necessarily need people to come to our app if they're using the card, right? And so
That's
that's
true.
why we're tracking weekly transacting users, and this is only tracking outgoing transactions. Actually, if you look here, you can see that our incoming transactions. Oh, where is the screen? Here it is. We actually had, we had a good amount of users loading it, and look, we actually had more spending users. So looks like someone spent another $10 this morning, but you can see here that our transacting users are technically these 9 users, right? But we're only counting these spending users right now. So we could be looking at more, right? But ultimately, the idea is that these spending users, they actually, if they never come to the BCard app, but they continue using BCard to spend things, that's actually a win for us, right? Like because
That's true. Yeah.
they're still quietly accumulating their tokens, they're still supporting their community, and they're still they're still like there, like that kind of user who's just like, hey, I don't have a lot of time, but I want to support this community. That's still like a pretty valuable user for us to have, even though we may not understand a lot about them, and even though we may want to get them more engaged.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But like this next phase is trying to, if we want to create more engagement, it's kind of some of that in-app voting stuff. Anyways, something we'll talk about a little bit further. I think the audience question will help on this. But on our lead metric side, we have 3 weekly transacting users, 2 new users, which is +2 from previous week, and this is about even, and 10 communities deployed. So I would say that, like, in general, we're down on this metric. We're trying to get 10, 10, 10, right? Before we move on to the next, let's say, step. But not bad, because it is a different weekly transacting user list. Yeah, we're still, I'd say, like in January, February, typically people spending goes down as well.
How about card load? Is card loads a metric?
It's not a metric, but you can see that I do look at it like on a week-to-week basis. You can see, like, we had just as much loaded as we had spent this week. And actually more loaded than we had spent. Like when the amount loaded here, like the all-time amount loaded, which is 48,000 versus the amount spent, like when these are pretty similar, that's a little bit more scary for me. This says that we basically have, $8,000 worth of assets that are kind of like locked in. That's our TVL in some way that people will spend eventually.
Okay, so on that ratio, so we want to, and I'm trying to get my head around these numbers and what's important. So is maybe one of the numbers we look at is the ratio of load to spend?
We could look at it, but then like what's I guess like
The
specifically,
dollar amount I know is more
yeah.
important than the ratio, but
So specifically for lag and lead metrics, all of like these lead metrics you want to be actionable, and this lag metric has to be related to like what our goal is. So like we could look at this like from like hey, we want to get more people transacting, and like our amount loaded is like very close to our amount spent. So we need to get more people loading the card. How are we going to do that, right? So we might do that at like kind of like a lower level. For the all team meeting, like what we really care is like, are people transacting, right? And then
yeah.
Like, how is that actionable? You may look at different metrics to make that actionable. And that's why we have these metrics here, but we don't go through them like every week. These are the ones we look at every week because we're really trying to keep it like, what are the most actionable metrics on the lead metric side?
Okay. Well, that's helpful.
But you,
Thank you.
but I do look at that number that you're talking about, right? When I'm thinking about this stuff, like it's important that we have it, but if I'm sharing it with a larger group, I'll
Right.
probably only share the
Yeah,
actionable numbers.
and just FYI, that's the first time I had seen that particular dashboard. That you must share that in other meetings yeah, that one. I'm
Yeah.
not. Maybe you've shown it before, but I wasn't familiar with
Yeah, so
those data points
it's
that were
typically
available.
the like we look at this in the product meeting, I would say, and sometimes in the ops meeting.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Cool.
All
Didn't mean
right.
to sidetrack, but you were asking.
No, I absolutely asked about it, right? And so I think it's good for us to have that discussion. And I think like some people know that's the kind of thinking around it, and some people don't, right? So if you're asking, probably other people would want to know as well.
All right.
All right. So we need some people to test the in-app voting. So check it out on staging and let me know if you need some OP bank. I can send some over to you. But basically, if you haven't seen it, you can check out the team chat. There's some screenshots for in-app voting on there. So basically, I took what Tom did, which was he had put a lot of data, which is great because I knew how to get the data. And then I just transformed it into something that's just like a little bit more simple, a little bit more user-friendly. So it's pretty much ready to go, but there could be bugs and stuff. So if you get a chance, please check it out. All right. On the milestone perspective, 10 weekly transacting users. That's what we're aiming for. In-app voting, the UI UX work is complete. Take a look and give your feedback. The next step on this, actually, I didn't write this in here. Next step, we have to start using this. So as part of Black Flag DAO in real life events. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be starting to add some of the snapshot spaces for Black Flag DAO and Black Flag Collective. So there's one for Black Flag Collective that we'll start with, which is really like, hey, which communities should we fund? And so every month we'll have at least one vote, right? And that's kind of the start of how we're going to do it. We probably want to do more as we go, but that's where we're going to start. And I said this at the ops meeting last week, but I think that we should get pretty much everyone. I mean, I think like almost everyone here has access to BCard on production. Drost, I think you do too, right?
Access to BCard on production. Yeah.
Yeah. So like you're able to use BCard. Like I think you already have a BCard, right?
Oh yeah. In fact, I just did a card load the other day.
Yeah. Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
So I think like what we want to do is make sure all of us, like the five of us, there's like me, you, Shelby, Arkusti, Crypto Dad, Tom, and if we all use the production in-app voting, then that way we can make it useful, right? So what I'm going to be doing for the next round of the in real life voting is making it so that anyone with bank can also vote. So basically,
Cool.
so it only works for embedded wallets though right now. So it doesn't work with your connected wallet. And so this is something for us to note, but we'll talk about it a little bit further down. But the goal is for the in-app voting is let's make it useful. And the first group we want to make it useful for is us. We cannot really spread it beyond ourselves if we don't make it something that we can use ourselves.
100%.
Yeah. And there's something
Absolutely.
related to that we'll talk about a little bit further down, but let's speed through these milestones and then we'll get into the discussion topic. Some feedback to users to action upon. There's a login bug and some transaction list confusion. I do want to handle these too because it is a new user who kind of said both of these. And so I kind of want to show them that we're willing to update the app based upon their feedback. So I want to basically prioritize these next. I've done the in-app voting UI UX. 10 users a week. Taxman, any tokens now available. Expenses are now available. I did a public release last week, and I sent it to Farcaster, X, LinkedIn, and to our patrons yesterday. Next up, I want to execute on some of the feedback. Someone asked for degen chain, which I looked into, and it looks like we will be able to handle that. And then there's some small user quirks. Tom gave me some feedback that I want to action on as well. And then finally, I want to send an email to our email list. We have like another 1,500 people that we could be telling directly about Taxman. I will fix some of these issues before I send it out to them, so probably expect that next week. I also got some distribution advice from DeWoofy, and he checked out our landing page, and we spent most of our time looking at the landing page, and he was basically saying that we should concentrate on making sure that our assets have identity messaging and work on a growth dashboard later. And so what he means by identity messaging is, like, right now, if you look at Get BCard, support your community with every swipe, and he's like, this doesn't say anything about your identity. This says something about what you do, but it doesn't really tell you who you are. And so, when I asked him, like, well, what is identity messaging? Basically, he took us back to our brand archetypes, and he was actually strongly arguing that we weren't and I kind of wish NF Thinker was here so we could talk about it a little bit more. But he was basically strongly saying that we probably aren't the jester magician. We're probably more on the sage side of things, like basically. Yeah, anyways, all this to say that we can do some big improvements to our website, and I know a bunch of people worked on it, but it's just the messaging that we have right now is not quite there. And if I'm being honest, the branding that we have there is not really the same as our app. It's not really the same as, it doesn't really feel like our brand there either. I have some ideas on this, and we'll have to adjust as we go, but it feels like, well, first of all, he was saying you need to work on your identity messaging, and then you need to test that messaging by talking to people. So that's something that's on my plate, and it's something that's on other people's plate too, right? Like, I think that if we all start talking to people about what we're doing at BCard with the right messaging, and then we can see, do people actually respond to what we're saying, or are they kind of not interested in what we're saying? Those are signals for us to kind of be able to use to adjust our messaging over time. Anyways, that's, I would say, something that we need to work on next, and it's more important than some of this stuff, although I've been prioritizing some of the other stuff. I'm not sure why. Maybe I felt like maybe it's just more thinking stuff, and I need to get into it. But in general, messaging has been on my mind for at least a couple months. And I'm not happy with the way that our messaging is as it is. So we're going to need to do a little bit more. Black Flag Endowment Fund. We distributed the funds last week, around $425 US. I mentioned the new mechanism for next month, which could help us lock down funding from other DAOs. Actually, I didn't mention how this could lock down funding from other DAOs. So last month, what I did was in Bankless DAO, I created a Discord poll, and then I kind of used that to set the amount proportionally to the amount that Bankless DAO had deposited in the pool, that Black Flag DAO had deposited in the pool, rather. The issue with that is it kind of wipes out, it takes away the initiative from all of the other depositors, and it actually probably makes it so some of those depositors feel like it's not even worth depositing. And the reason for that is because we were putting Black Flag's full amount kind of in, and there was no initiative that was required from a lot of the user base. And so when I was thinking about adding other DAOs to the mix, I was like, how can we do this that actually puts initiative on vote holders to vote and actually makes it worth it to deposit into our pool? And so the way that I thought about doing this is, instead of doing that poll and using Black Flag DAO's full voting weight, what we can do is add bank or TL Bank or even BFUSD to the vote weights, and then it would mean that, hey, individual community members can vote directly on the snapshot. Right now, I tried to get the the Black Flag DAO multisig to vote on the snapshot. That didn't work because they were far too slow for it to happen. And then I had to do a reconciliation at the end of it. So I didn't like doing that. I want the snapshot to be the source of truth. And what this does is it also creates, first of all, it creates an incentive for people to vote on the snapshot itself. It allows them to see like, hey, I can get more voting weight by depositing into this pool. So it creates a potential incentive for them to actually deposit into the pool themselves. And it also creates a path for other DAOs to get in. Hey, Nouns DAO, do you want to put 100,000 in this pool? If you do that, then we will give every noun voting weight. And so if you hold a noun, you can now vote on this snapshot. And it allows us to kind of have like a positive sum game going on this. So that's a new mechanism I want to try for next month. We'll see. I think that I'll probably try to run it next month and then use that to show DAOs, smaller DAOs like Purple DAO and Yellow DAO, what they could be getting if they're kind of interested in this. And yeah, we'll have to see how it goes from there. I also, when I posted that, had a bunch of people from Farcaster be interested in what we're doing. So Farcaster Las Vegas, Farcaster New York, Farcaster Paris, Chonies, they all kind of reached out to me and said like, hey, this is kind of interesting. How can we get involved? And so we may have some more events raising that black flag next month. Yeah. Any comments on that?
Cool. I mean, it sounds like that's the kind of thing that's starting to resonate with people.
Yeah, who would have thought giving away free money could be so interesting to people?
Well, yeah, trying to figure out that monetized incentive that maybe has some other component. Something that occurred to me, and this is totally out of left field, but sometimes something comes out of that. You know, one of the things we've been getting starting to get questions on, like with this transition over at Black Flag DAO, and about the new membership structure and stuff, and people starting to ask, or not just starting to, but have been asking about, well, what about bank? What about the bank token? What are we doing with that? And I know we're kind of pushing off, saying, well, you know, for right now, it has no utility. This is the way we're going to handle membership going forward, with depositing into the pool and blah, blah, blah. But that makes me think about, you know, there's a lot of bank holders that are asking that same question. Is there any utility for bank? Or can we do something with bank? Because there's a lot of holders out there, right? And it seems to me like if we could come up with some kind of a clever usefulness for that, whether it's in-app voting or, you know, some kind of whatever it is, even if it's just as a test bed, that would be an opportunity for all bank holders basically to do something with their tokens.
Yep.
Right.
Yep, I agree. I actually think, you know, there's still some utility in holding bank, in my opinion, because it's still the governance token of the DAO, right? Like that hasn't changed
Right.
yet. I suspect that the Transition Council will kind of try to wipe bank from the entire constitution. I suspect that that's their plan. But I don't
Well, the
know.
token still exists, whether they write it out of existence or not. It still exists on the blockchain, and people
Yeah.
still hold it. So, neener.
Yeah. Yep. I agree. And so, yeah, I mean, I still think that there's going to be, like, from what I understand, the Transition Council is saying bank is dead. And I don't necessarily feel that way myself. And I think just like having this thing, hey, bank holders, you can vote in this thing, is, first of all, useful for bank holders, right? Hey, there's some utility to my token. And
Yeah,
second
and
of
it's still a way to do this experimental stuff that we all got into in the first place, right? I mean,
yeah,
I know people got into it to number go up and make money and stuff, blah blah blah. But you know, there's lots of other ways to number go up, make money. People stick around because they like this stuff, whether they want to admit it or not. And so, and it's all experimental. We've got the contract set up. The token exists. It's got a history. Let's use it as a. Who cares if it has any value or not? It's a mechanism that works, right?
yep,
It uses the blockchain and it works. And get it off of mainnet so we don't have all those transaction fees. Move it over to Polygon or whatever they're calling themselves now, or Base, and be done with it. And then, or not be done with it, but then use it as a, I don't know, move it over to testnet or something. I don't know.
yeah.
I
So
just feel like there's a
with
mechanism there that we could use.
with no work, the token is able to be bridged to optimism relatively easily.
There you go.
Yeah, so that's. Well, I mean, so there's some work relative because then we
Well,
got.
yeah, I know there's some work. It's
Yeah,
all Tom.
but yeah, if you
Anywho,
want to, anyways, I will make bank an eligible token in the next, uh, in next month's in real life events vote. I suspect there might be some pushback from people on doing that, but it's an experiment, and if bank holders vote, that's not a bad thing. I don't think.
agreed.
Anyways, yeah.
Didn't mean to belabor that, but it's been on
No.
my mind.
I think it's an important point. Actually, at ETH Denver last year, a bunch of people talked to me because they were concerned that bank holders were going to get left out in the cold. And I mean, if I'm being honest, it seems like that's the plan by the Transition Council. But yeah.
Yeah, that's a separate conversation, but I tend to share your sentiments.
Yeah.
With that.
And so I don't want to think about what we can't do, but what we can do is we can make utility for bank ourselves, right? And so that's a relatively easy thing for me to do next month, and I will do it. All right, we have 10 high quality communities. So we have a DeSci Twitter AMA it was supposed to happen this morning, but it's been pushed off to February 11th because we couldn't get everyone involved. Glow Dollar, we need a card image. I don't know if anyone is willing or able to take that on. We have some templates and some brand assets for this, but is anyone here willing to do that? I could do it myself. I just am not very good at it. No takers?
I'm not very good at it either.
Okay. I mean,
yeah, not really my skill set either. So
okay, fair enough. So I'll give it a go, and or maybe I'll just poke at a thinker. Would you see the request for a Glow Dollar card image? And let's see if he's able to do it for us. Otherwise, I'll do it myself. He's not able to do it this week. And then finally, Black Flag DAO with in-app voting going live soon. We could release a Black Flag DAO along with it. I already kind of discussed that, and we'll discuss it a bit more. But first, let's pop into the task perspective here. So become guinea pigs for in-app voting. This is a new one, and this is almost exactly what I was talking about above. But Shelby, how's this going? You're muted, Shelby. I don't know if you know that.
Yeah,
There you go.
sorry, I got kicked out and or I X'd out by accident. So I voted on all the test votes on the staging. I'm not sure what else you want me to do. But yeah,
Well, so if we want to become guinea pigs, the idea is that we need to internally use this ourselves. Okay, so we need to get those like people with these wallet addresses going ourselves. And so the idea is to coordinate making that happen. So how can we actually encourage our internal community to use this? How are we going to get people to use this ourselves? I've been doing some work on this by getting people's wallet addresses, by like figuring out which snapshot spaces, but like basically a plan to make in-app voting useful to our internal team with as little work as possible.
So just throw some votes up or something?
Yeah, that's definitely something we're going to have to do is put some votes up on the snapshot space. We have a test snapshot space up right now, but we probably want this to be on production, which I'll probably release it later this week to production. But we probably want existing spaces on that snapshot space too. So, working with Tom to get those existing spaces up there. Yeah, just seeing where the gaps are to actually make it useful.
Okay.
So just maybe think about that, and you can share your plans in the user chat, and I can help you refine those as we go.
Yeah, I don't really have any plans or know what you want there, to be honest. Sorry.
Okay, so we have a tool of in-app voting now, right?
Mm-hmm.
You've used it. You've used that tool.
Yes.
So I want not only you to use it, but I want everyone in our internal team to use it.
Hmm.
And I want you to coordinate making that happen.
Okay, so I can just ask them, right?
You can just ask them, but are they going to do it if it's not interesting? Are they going to do it if it's just for test votes? I want you to make it useful to our internal team.
Okay.
Maybe that means opening a new snapshot space. Maybe that means using our test space. Maybe that means creating new types of votes. Maybe that means something else. It could be something else entirely. But that's the goal, is to make it useful to our internal team. So maybe I'll update this to make in-app voting useful to the BCard Black Flag collective team.
Thank you.
Okay, does that make it more obvious?
Yes, thank you.
All right. Okay, going up from the top, done. Patron email, I did send this out, so that is done. Mark it as complete. There's a bunch of stuff in this community funnel that I need to probably think about, but I haven't had a chance to think about it yet. In-app voting, this is, well, after we get a couple people trying it on staging, it'll be ready for release. So it's pretty close, I would say. We'll leave it at the top here. Taxes, how's this going?
Yeah, so I've actually purchased and installed the TurboTax, and I'm starting to look at this. I got some other like stuff I was working on. I got to made major progress last week, so I'm more able to focus on this stuff now. So
Nice. Great, thanks a lot. And I still need to get the invoices out onto Google Drive, but yeah, we'll see when I can get that done. Taxman updates for 2025. So we did this, and so what I'm going to add as some new, so I have some feedback put here, address some of the feedback, adjust output CSV, add degen chain, and then some others below. And then send to our email list, to our general email list. Okay, and so then that will be done after this, and then we will just continue to communicate it, but we won't need this task anymore. We just talked about in-app voting, growth dashboard. Let's call this identity messaging / growth dashboard. More systematic experimental perspective on this. Workshop some messaging that relates to our identity. Test this messaging by talking to people, then test this messaging on our website. So this is, I would say, more important than the growth dashboard for now. DeSci AMA, this is moved to February 11th. And we'll leave it there for now. Glow Dollar, as I said, we need a card image. Just need a card image now so we can move to product. So we're close there. Black Flag Endowment Fund. So this kind of stuff, I'm going to move it down a little bit further. But essentially, there's a couple things that I wanted to do for the page itself. Black Flag Collective here. So on this page, it's pretty simple. You can see how it's just like links to Cabanify and stuff like that. What I want to do is allow people to deposit directly on this page. I want to have places for sponsors. I want to have places for like upcoming events and that kind of thing. So all is to say that there's some updates that I want to make on this, but it's not the most important thing right now. Contributor rewards and payroll. How's this going, Christy?
So I didn't do anything in the past week, but like I've kind of mentioned, I've sort of cleared some headspace or whatever, so I could kind of start focusing on a few other things now.
Sweet. All right. I'll skip over some of this and go straight down to ChippyCon. How's this going, Trost?
Sorry, I just switched. I was just over in Notion. Yeah, I actually been doing some work on that this week. And then also we've got that. I know this is a different question, but it's kind of taking precedence because we're doing that a Twitter space on Saturday, hopefully announcing the new structure at BDAO. So I've been working on that, but also yeah, on ChippyCon, I had run it by some of the things we talked about by Perchy and Johnny and stuff, and about incorporate all the stuff we talked about, whether it's having an NFT that for anybody that transacts at the bar will know what the, you know, because I shared all that with Perchy and that team, and they love the idea. So Perchy just needs to know what kind of artwork we want, and I suggested he's more creative on all that stuff, so maybe throw some ideas together based on what we've been talking about. And then he didn't say anything about a cost for it, because, you know, we're spending some money on, you know, like I'm buying some stuff for the party, and Johnny's did that Kickstarter project and stuff. So I haven't really gotten a number out of Perchy, but I know he's willing to do artwork for these couple of different NFT things we're talking about. So there'd be one for the anybody who transacts on BCard at the bar that evening. And you had mentioned about maybe having Blue Bear go over there to get the merchant ID by running a transaction. I know Johnny has talked with the bar owner, but I don't want to task him with a bunch of extra stuff about transaction stuff, because I don't want the bar owner to get all, you
Yeah,
know,
what is the bar's?
that's
What's the
something they
bar's?
don't want to bother with.
Yeah, can you tell me the bar's
Pardon me?
name? Can you tell me the bar's name?
Yeah, it's just generically, I think it's Whiskey Bar, but I've got the address, and Johnny has all that information too. But yeah, I've got the address and the name of the bar and stuff.
Okay, can you send that over to me?
Yeah.
The links will ask Blue Bear to get a beer there or something, or whiskey, I guess.
Right. That's right. I'm sure they sell beer too.
Okay, great. And in terms of like the NFT, honestly, just thinking like a badge, like that's kind of like in
Or a
some ways,
badge. It's something like that, right?
yeah, like a POAP like badge, which is just essentially BCard X ChippyCon 2025 in Denver, and hopefully it would have the BCard Bunnycorn chippy on it.
And are you still wanting to use the bunny corn? Because you were just saying that maybe that gesture thing is not the way we want to go
I
with
think
it.
we should still use it. You know, like I feel like it's our connection to Chippy, right?
Okay.
So I'll put it here.
Yeah, POAP is definitely an option, and I'd also talked to Salman.
Yeah, it doesn't have to,
works for
I don't actually want it to be a POAP because we're gonna want to mint it ourselves, but like, you know, like
okay.
a round kind of badge looking thing.
Okay.
Sorry, you talked to Salman?
So a round kind of badge, and then just supply that to you guys so that then Tom would be able to like drop it to people's wallets or something. Is that how you would do that?
Exactly,
Okay.
exactly. Like, so we would probably set something up. So when we saw that transaction come in, we would automatically send it to them. That would be kind of the ideal goal.
Okay, right. Because the other thing I'm thinking of is for a POAP station. It's basically just a iPad or something that people can scan to get the code for going to ChippyCon itself. That has nothing to do with
Exactly.
because we don't want to. That's a separate thing. So
exactly.
yeah, this goes automatically for people that transact, and then people that go to the party and happen to go to the station, they can get their POAP, which are two separate things. But if you go, you can end up getting both if you're a BCard holder as well.
Exactly. Includes the BCard Bunnycorn. Maybe something like BCard X ShippyCon 2025. Okay, so I put those ideas in there. And yeah, you can send me
Okay,
the
great.
link to Whiskey Bar and I'll reach out to Blue Bear.
Okay, great. I'll do that.
Let me just write that down.
I should
Okay,
be
great.
able to find it right now.
And I will comment. All right, great. I wanted to get into the discussion. We don't have a ton of time, but I'll just quickly go through what was shipped last week. I styled in-app voting. I got info for the Glow Dollar community. I dispersed Black Flag Endowment Fund and got interest from event holders. I completed and released Taxman. We had 22 users, but only one new email, so not everyone went to get to CSV. I was on 2 podcasts, Vibe Check at GM Parkcaster, where I pitched Taxman. And I think the big thing for us, well, maybe we'll skip right down. I had 2 discussion topics. Who is our audience, and should we prioritize a non-crypto or a crypto native audience? We did have a discussion about this in the ops group, but I think it's worth having this discussion multiple times. And I think for the amount of time that we have, anyways, we can kind of discuss both. But the pros and cons of going for a crypto native or a non-crypto audience, and I'm not going to call them a crypto curious audience because actually that was a good distinction. I think that like people don't even necessarily need to be crypto curious to want to use something. The example that that Crypto Dad gave actually was a really good one, and I'm forgetting it now. But it is, what is it called? Darn it. STEPN. Have you guys heard of this one? So here's like for the crossover crypto products, people don't even care that it's crypto. And so here, let me just stick it in here. Step in. And so it's really just like it is like a game that is like really like making your steps kind of count. And they got a lot of good traction. And you know, they had a token based, like they were basically giving people a token. And it was all based upon getting these tokens. Like it's essentially like a loyalty program, and it didn't use like it was all based upon having these embedded wallets, right? And so this actually did rather well. People are still using it right now, and I think that that's kind of important, right? So like for these crossover crypto apps that worked well, they were built for non-crypto people. Okay, the only way to get the token was to actually do the thing, like making steps, and then they had embedded wallets, which you know they didn't hold their own keys. They logged in via email, and the con of this is that if we don't appeal to crypto native, what communities will people actually be joining? You know, will we have to start from scratch on the community side, or can we figure this out in some way? I think in the long term we could figure both ways out. And then for crypto natives, if we start for crypto natives, they know how to use snapshot voting, they understand the benefits of crypto, they understand they have existing communities, and perhaps they have similar values. Maybe it feels like a lot of people in this space are kind of just like number go up people. So I'm not quite sure about that. In fact, they might not have similar values at all. But if we do this, our UX will be worse, and we could be alienating non-crypto people in the short run, right? Because the Connect wallet flow is just terrible. And the reason why we have to kind of make this decision is because we have an in-app voting flow. It works for embedded wallets, but it's almost sure that the first thing people are going to ask is like, hey, well, how can I use my connected wallet, right? And so it's like for those people, we could make it easy for them to just go vote on Snapshot themselves. They don't have to vote within our app necessarily, right? Like they could go, like they could vote on Snapshot themselves. But yeah, just a discussion I want to bring forth. What are people's thoughts on this? Should we be prioritizing non-crypto or crypto people?
Well, non-crypto people, it's really going to come down to an extremely frictionless user experience, and it seems to me like it would require a lot of capabilities that we don't have, I guess is what I'm saying, because our team is so small. And any entity that's really focused on the user experience, throwing a lot of money at that is going to win. I mean, that's kind of how my net feel about it. I just feel that it would be really difficult to try and compete.
So it's actually more difficult for us to compete with, like on the UX perspective. It actually creates a worse UX experience for us to go the other way. Like it's actually very possible for us to create an easy UX for people using embedded wallets. Because embedded wallets, because we don't have to like send a signing request or a transaction request to an external wallet, like we can accept all of those. It's actually easier for us to create a frictionless experience if we only handle non-crypto people.
Okay.
Yeah. So for instance, like we have a potential method to onboard fiat money into our Black Flag Endowment Fund. And to do it via like a crypto native like connected wallet, we need to do like several signing requests, like more than 3 probably. But for non-crypto people, for the wallet that we control, they don't have to do any signing requests actually.
Okay. Yeah, I gotta say, I hadn't been on Coinbase in a while. I have a Coinbase account that I opened back in 2021, and I've been doing a lot of stuff on chain ever since I got the initial money into it that way. And then there's been some other stuff, but I haven't used Coinbase in forever, right? And so I went to their website this was trying to get money into, anyway, was doing the Black Flag Endowment. And because I didn't have any money on Base, and it's like, I might as well get a Base name while I'm at it. And bridging, do you bridge from Base.org? No, you don't do that anymore. They don't do that anymore. Now you have to go through a cross. Oh, it's like, I know a cross. I can use that. But it was, to me, I got to tell you, to what I had thought, my impression was always, Coinbase is the easy user experience for the normie, and bullshit. Coinbase, I got to tell you, to me is more confusing than ever now. I don't know if anybody else is getting that experience.
No, I totally get that experience. I actually had to move some money around because I was like selling some Bitcoin to pay for some things in real life. And it was so annoying.
I have no idea, there's got all this distraction shit there. It's like, all I want to do is buy some crypto for my account.
No, so it's really bad. Actually, because I was interviewing at Coinbase, I did a deep dive on their products. And I was like, I was really surprised because they actually have internal competition. So they have an integrated Web3 wallet as part of their Coinbase retail app. And then they have Coinbase Wallet, which is a separate app. And to get money from your like integrated Web3 wallet to your other one, it's not easy. Let's just say that. It's very difficult, in fact.
It is so confusing. And so I've completely changed my point of view on that. And it's like, no. Coinbase is not the best way to onboard people. It's the most confusing thing out there.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think we can work with that. But so that contradicts my prior point about bigger companies being able to iterate the user experience. Well, obviously Coinbase, they fucked it up, to my mind. And so, what are those things that we can do to make things frictionless? I mean, if we were able to help people, if people could buy crypto through BCard, that would be super cool. But I know that's a whole other issue.
It is a whole other issue. It's becoming easier and easier. Like it looks like more people are willing to have crypto exchanges in the United States again.
Yeah, I mean, if you could buy crypto and get it into your embedded wallet and own ETH or BTC there, that would be super cool. And through a streamlined user experience, and you just load it through your bank account like we're doing now, and then you can swap for ETH or BTC. That would be heaven.
Yep, that's what we're.
It really would.
That's what we need to do. Like that. I mean, so we can't do quite yet. We can't do the USDC. But what we can do is we can buy we can potentially have some other stablecoin on ramp that will allow us to do this. So looking into this, we
Yeah,
may
I
have a
think that
path
would be
for it.
huge. I really do.
But yeah, like for that though, would you would kind of want the ability to export the keys to the embedded wallet, correct?
Yep.
In case you want, because that's like what that's kind of one of the things that, like, do we build that functionality, or do we like prioritize resources for making the UX on the voting better for people that are not going to export?
Yeah. So what I mean, I think the voting is probably like good enough now. Like it's not perfect, it's not great, and actually as we add multiple snapshot spaces, it's probably gonna like there's probably gonna be some performance issues as well. But those things can all be fixed. I think like exporting your keys, Tom already has like a method to do that. So like RKC, all this to say that like if we created a way to export your keys, it's actually not just for crypto natives. It could be for non-crypto people too, right? Like it's really just an escape hatch for anyone. And that could go to either like it's a feature that would work for everyone, so that it's not really like that feature specifically is not like I think we have to execute on that feature regardless. Let's just say that.
Yeah, but I guess like the other thing I was just thinking about, like you may want to enable people to export keys, but like kind of our objective though is to like bring people into that, like into the app. So like how do you do that, like while continuing to make people engage with the app more and more?
Yeah, so that is the difficult part on us, right? So like even if we had
sorry, go ahead.
So even if we had people export their keys, like we still have access to the Privy wallet through Privy, right? So the keys that they export, it's really just for them to, hey, I'm going to be using this wallet in Rainbow as well, but it's not like not your keys, not your crypto, right? Like a crypto native wouldn't accept this as enough, right? Because we still have access to those keys.
Yeah, but then you need to keep building reasons for people to come in and use the app and have it, in their mind. So then they use BCard to spend and so on.
Yeah, so you're absolutely right. Like what we would want for, especially for those non-crypto users, is to kind of think of BCard as their like safe gateway to crypto. Hey, I don't know if I trust like this new lending protocol that came up, but I trust going to BCard and using the lending protocol that they have there for me because I know that it's vetted, right? Like the idea that like, hey, I don't necessarily trust this like sketchy vault that someone put up to do something, but I trust the one that's in my BCard app because it's easy to use. BCard has never done me wrong before. I can see on their support site like what this is and see how it's explained. All of these things, like ultimately, Coinbase wants to be the company that people think of, the brand that people think of when they think of crypto. We want that same thing in a way, but we're coming at it from a different angle. Coinbase wants people who are trading high volumes of crypto to think of them. We want the regular person on the street who actually who's not in crypto for number go up. We want them to think of us, right? And so we have the same goal in that we want to be the trusted brand for crypto in people's minds. But we don't necessarily want the same audience that Coinbase wants. We don't necessarily want to do the same way that they're doing it. And in fact, we don't necessarily even want to be, we might not even necessarily even want to be a crypto brand. We might just want to be like a financial brand. Hey, all these banks are screwing you, but we're doing it in a way that you can actually have ownership of this thing as well. Or maybe we want to be like a social impact brand. Hey, all of those other kinds of like you're getting screwed right now, but if you come to us, we're all working together to make a better society, right? So we don't quite know what's going to work for us yet, We do know that we have certain values, and crypto is one of the, like, we do know that we're using crypto tooling to make some of this stuff happen. But what we share with our users and what others, like what actually resonates with people, you're absolutely right, Arkusti, that we're going to have to figure that out to get people to come back. Does that address what you're saying, or?
Yeah. I mean, I think, and I think you want to avoid like the case like with Coinbase, because I have to say, like, I've got, probably 3 or 4 tabs open where it's, like the, claim a base name or whatever, and it's like, well, you do this in your the embedded wallet. I've got a Coinbase wallet, and then the other the smart, well, there's the smart wallet, and then there's that might even be another thing.
It is a different thing, yeah.
It's like what's what with this stuff, because it sounds, I'm just like confused, and I've got these tabs that I like, open, and I've got to like do something, but that's kind of what you want to avoid.
Yeah.
With stuff, you want to keep people engaged and keep them thinking about the app and thinking about the app in a way that works for them, and in a way that like drives our metrics up.
Yeah, and I think like what's really important is, again, when we go back to those metrics that we were talking about at the beginning, the idea that we're doing it for a different reason. Coinbase is a private VC-backed company. They're doing it for profit. Okay, they may say that there's other reasons. Their advertising may show users that they have some similar values in crypto, but ultimately the reason that they're doing this is for profit. We are a nonprofit organization, right? And so we don't have all of the bells and whistles of Coinbase, but every strength is a weakness, every weakness is a strength. The fact that we are not for profit is also a benefit to us if we use it in the right way. And so when we're looking at what Coinbase is doing, like everything that they have to do has to drive the bottom line. But for us, we can do things that aren't necessarily driving the bottom line, but are continuing to push our vision into the world. What we're trying to do is use Web3 tooling to create revenue and engagement for communities, right? And I think that if we really want to do that, we need to make it as easy as possible. Coinbase can actually get away with having bad user experience because people's money is tied up with Coinbase, and they will take the time to figure out if they're using a smart wallet or the integrated Web3 wallet or the separate Coinbase wallet app. People have to figure it out because they have thousands and thousands of dollars at stake with Coinbase. So they can get away with a crappy user experience for that reason. We actually cannot. And so it actually behooves us to make the user experience as smooth as possible, as easy as possible. That has always been our goal, to bridge the UX gap between Web3 and the real world. And it's why I think we really need to look at what we're trying to accomplish. So yes, I completely agree with what you're saying, Arkusti, agree with what you're saying, Drost. I see we're out of time, but are there any other things we want to discuss before we stop for this week?
Real quick, I just wanted to say, I don't know if you know that all the emails, or at least for me, all the emails from BCard go to my junk email box. I know you're talking.
So I've heard that before. Can you mark it as not spam? That might help a little.
I can. It's just, I know you were saying that you were going to send out like whatever 1,500 emails. If everyone doesn't have it marked as not spam, it's going to go right to spam, right?
Yeah, I mean, so our open rate's actually pretty good on our email list. Like we see it, I think it's above 50% for our patrons, and for our actual users, it's hovering like just under 50%. So actually, our open rate is pretty good, which shows that we're not getting put in spam for a lot of people. But it's always a concern that we have to think about. Like we could actually get our own. There are other things that we can do, but one of the things that you can do is actually mark it as not spam, because that will help us other people recognize us as not spammy.
Okay.
Yeah, and depending on the what email you're using, like on Proton, I'm using Proton Mail for mine, and it has not gone to spam. I am getting the messages.
Yeah, it really depends. Yeah, so I'm looking at our latest numbers right now. And right now, 86.79% of our emails have been opened. Specifically, I mean, most of these are monthly BCard statements and BCard taxman reports and other things like that. But we also send like, so like our last monthly statement for December, we had 55% open rate. For our pool together partner card, we had a 30% open rate. Right. And so they're pretty good numbers. I'll just say that, like, which means that we're not getting marked as spam too much, but it's always something we have to worry about. So thank you for bringing it up, Shelby. I appreciate that. All right. Just want to take a quick second. I know that we're over, just to say thanks to everyone. I really appreciate you being here. There's lots of great things going on. Actually, it was a very productive week last week. We got TaxVan out. We got a new UI UX. So we're poised to get in-app voting out. These are TaxVan is not like a critical piece of our infrastructure, but I would say that I wasn't happy with the way that we had left it. So I'm a lot happier with it now. It's a lot more evergreen the way it is now. And for the in-app voting, this is a critical piece of the foundations that we're building. So I'm really excited to get it out and to see people using it. And we just need to keep pushing. If we get it there, we can actually have our Black Flag Collective community running completely within BCard. And that would be our first like end-to-end community with voting and everything like that running on BCard. So it would be a huge thing. So I just want to thank everyone. We're really close to getting it to a place where communities can use this thing. So thanks, everyone. I appreciate you all.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Have a great day.
Bye. Yeah, have a good day, everyone. Bye.